Disordinati is a podcast by Chiara Natalie Focacci about the choices, circumstances, and quirks that make us who we are, across words seen and unseen.
Welcome back to our podcast of the Disordinati. Today I'm with a wonderful human being, Michelle. Hi Michelle.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Michelle has a company which is called Be Stable, and she does behavioral therapy for both human and horses in Sweden. So let's start from the past. When did your passion for horses start, and what is your first memory of working with horses?
My passion for horses started when I was little. I think it's because I was always very sensitive and more like a tornado. So I was always very wild, and I love to be with nature. So when I got to go to the riding schools, and that was in that time the only way to be with horses, I was so happy. And I know the first time that I was around horses, I could not believe how big they are and how they smell. And I always had this sense of connection with animals when I was little, but then when you grow up, you kind of notice that it's not the way most people connect with animals. And I think that being with these horses, you had to do things together, so you need to communicate. And then most of the time I would find places that were a little bit more still between the lessons, and then I would sit with them, and it would feel like they would really understand me, and I would have all these conversations with them. And I think that's where my love for them started.
This is so amazing. And when you speak, I can really feel both your love for them, but also this magical word, that are horses. Among all the horses that you had or that you encountered, which one stayed with you forever, and it's still in your heart?
A very important question, actually, I think, because there are horses that really changed my life. So they influence the way my life has, the course of my life, the work that I'm now doing. So obviously they have a very big impact on me. But I think every horse I meet and work with, they find a place in my heart. And it is impossible for me to say which ones are the more, I have the ones who really, for example, there was this horse I met in the desert when I went on vacation. I had left the horse world because the place where I went to the riding school, it was actually, in hindsight, a very special place, because the horses, they were outside and they lived in a herd. And but the riding, it became a little bit of a problem for me, because I did the jumping competition, for example, and then my horse, she was so I always picked the horses that had anxiety or problems, and it would be my thing to build this connection with them. And then they had the jury table in the arena, and it was a total anxiety. And then the moment came where they said I needed to discipline the horse and I needed to whip him. And I left the arena with my horse. And I don't know where I got it from. I think it was just a little warrior part of me when I was little that was so fierce. So I just left. But it was also the reason that I left the horse world for a very long time. Around my teenage years, I just left the horse world, and then I went on vacation with my boyfriend, and we went to the desert. And then I don't know, I was always looking for animals, so I was very happy that we could see camels. And then there was this white Arabian horse in the desert.
They're so beautiful. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was like the Alice in Wonderland moment. Yeah. I think this horse was kind of my white rabbit. Yeah. So then suddenly I remembered oh my God, I miss this and I miss them. And it was so this was a very short moment that we met, and we went through the desert together, and I felt so connected with this horse. And I've been with him for a few hours, and then I went home, and then something was awakened in me. We didn't work together, there's nothing really on the outside big happened, but there was a moment that was very special to me. And then later there were horses who were changing my life, made me decide to start working with horses, go back to this whole world again. And then almost like a web of all these threads that are woven into some sort of pot together. So yeah, I really appreciate them all.
Yeah, it's amazing how much of a difference a good encounter can do, or it's like a series of encounters that lead you to the right direction of your life. I remember going through a phase of my life where I was in the wrong place with the wrong person, and I remember the only thing that saved me and that made me happy in the week was riding. It's something that I discovered, at 30 years old, and it really healed me in a way. And I still remember the first time I did the gallop, I cried because I was so emotional, and I thought, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this movement of freedom with an animal that is so powerful but also so sensitive. So what are the healing powers of horses? Why are they so magical?
I think your experience is something that a lot of people experience. So maybe we can take your experience, and then
absolutely.
I can tell you actually had a very profound feeling and connection when you went to the horses. And then a lot of times people ask me to explain it. It sounds like something happened when you went into the movement of the gallop.
Yeah.
So was that the first time that you experienced this feeling with horses, or did you have it before already?
I think it was the first time I experienced it with horses. It was very unique, and I was very present in the moment, and the whole movement, the fluidity of life. I really felt, a togetherness with the horse.
Yes. I think what you do is very, very nice, that you put the hands together. And the more technical part of this is maybe nice to connect to like the Chinese medicine, where they have this vision that your soul, it lives in your heart. It has to be embedded in the heart as well for you to be happy, and you can see it in someone's eyes when you see the light coming through, and the channels of the meridians, they go towards the hands. And because I'm kind of a geek and I totally love my job, I also know that this is all connected to how you are shaped when you are in the womb as a little fetus. The movement that you show me is very nice because it's like a heart opening moment. And what we need as animals as well is sometimes we need to remember that we're animals as well. And this is with a language that is something that we as children really need. We need to have the non-verbal moments. We need to have the attunement. We need to have the presence in a kind of way. Most of the time, people suddenly are remembered by this because this is the only language that horses speak. Their language is translated into movement. Like more, maybe some people would say frequency, but I like movement better because every feeling, every thought, every sensation that's happening inside you, and even the way you look at the world is made up out of movement.
Yeah.
And these horses, they are wired for connection, and we are as well. So that's very special because they are supposed to live in a herd for their protection and their survival, and we are actually the same. So that comes with the fact that we have a very special connection to horses throughout history, where they helped us in a way to travel and to find new ways, and that's something that they still do, maybe now more on an emotional level. And we are both species that are greatly influenced by domestication and patriarchal structures. So something happens in all of this. When you are in the presence of a horse, they will immediately start to connect with you, and this happens before you are in even 2 or 3 meters around the horse, because the heart, the magnetic field of their heart is very big and it surrounds them. So for us to be close to them, you can already feel things happening in your nervous system. They start to speak with each other. But because we are so used to saying things, thinking with the part of our brain that is connected to speech and to logical thinking, these things happen without us knowing. So we are just totally unaware when we enter the space of a horse, and then these things happen. But people notice that they feel more relaxed, or that they got time to feel or to think. And I don't know if you ever heard about heart coherence. Of course, we see one horse as an individual, but because they're wired to live in herds, they have this beautiful thing where they're almost like one organism, and they are connected throughout this field of all the horses in the herd. It's like almost like you could see a body with organs working together. And when there is stress or when there are tensions with one of the horses, all of the horses, they will start co-regulating. And what happens is their heart, when you are stressed and you are close to a horse, their heart actually matches the rhythm of your heart. Yeah. And then they stay with you there, and then they bring it down to the level where they can relax and they go into the safe state, and the state that our nervous system can go into this relaxation. And this all happens when you're just in the space of the horse. Yeah. That's why a lot of people experience themselves differently, or they suddenly feel like they go out of the fight and flight state, where our vision is more like a tunnel, where our movements are more sharp, where our energy is more in the head. And then you're close to a horse, and suddenly you feel like you're almost sinking it back into the body. Yeah. And this is just because this is how they work, but it's also actually how we work. So that's beautiful. And then there's this thing where I think the awareness, it's different than the awareness of humans. We are activating part of our system a lot, where for most people, when they go to work, they go into this thinking state of mind, and they go a little bit out of the body, but more. And horses, they are more connected to the primal parts of life, because they are flight animals. Yeah. And it has no use for them to start with certain ways of thinking, and it's not available in their system. So what happens with us is that the parts that we need to feel a sense of belonging, to feel safe, to feel like we are connected, to understand ourselves and the way we truly are as a species, these things get mirrored by horses. And then suddenly you feel this aliveness, which is actually, for a part of the experience, is the thing that happens between us and horses. We suddenly experience ourselves, and we can start to experience that we are actually very interconnected with our environment. And then when we feel safe, the heart can open. It's like a returning of the soul energy into the heart, and it brings all these emotions, because in our day-to-day life, we have a tendency to leave our sensitive side, to leave the part where we feel deeply, to start a little bit more surviving. And then we build these walls, kind of like it's like a structure of walls and protection around the heart. So then you come into this place where you also had the movement of this gallop is perfect. It is like you are rocking a baby, where you have the same tendency, and your body is moved by something bigger. So it's almost like you go into this state where you are held by someone that we all needed when we grew up, and that we still need, but we don't. When we're adults, we forget to find these places. There's this return of presence in the heart area, and all this emotion just starts to regulate. Yeah. And that, I think, is something beautiful that we can find when we are close to animals, and when we can find our way back to ourselves. This work is not just like a job. This is really something. I love doing this work for them. I love having the knowledge and the skills to help horses, but it also deeply influences my life, because it is a really profound way of healing, expanding awareness in a sense. Is this something that you can relate to?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I'm someone who is, I would say, hypersensitive. I'm a very sensitive person, and I crave human connection, but in general, I crave a connection to the universe that makes me feel like I'm part of something. And as you said so many times, but I see it in the city often, you walk, and I always found very strange that we don't know the person who's walking next to us. And, they have a whole world that we don't know anything about, and they're just walking next to us. And I've always found this strange that we don't have this sense of herd or community anymore, because we used to be nomads as well. We used to, move from one village to the other and be part of something. And I think the feeling is exactly how you described it. I felt like I was going back to my primordial state in a way, if that makes sense. And I still remember I was quite scared going into the herd because it was a very the teacher was amazing. She hated people who discipline their horses. She was all about the horse. So we could only direct the horse in a certain way without using too much the legs and all of that. And I really loved the way she treated her horses. And so she sent the students just in the herd to get our own horse. And I remember I was quite scared because I had never done horse riding before. And I went into the place where the horses stay. And I had already met my horse 3 times. So I went in, and to calm myself, I started singing to my horse, and immediately, like, that specific horse came to me, and the rest, disappeared. And it was just a magical moment for me.
It's so nice that you share this. And actually, for most people, singing is a way to open the heart. But we also know that it is because you have the tone that's vibrating on the inside, and you have the breathing, that it's really soothing. Something happened when you opened this heart, and this horse could really sense you from afar, and they can pick up on all the feelings that are happening. And what I understood in a way, from the horses I met, it is as if you are having this little light that starts to shine. And for all animals, they react to this. And it is almost like, it is a very beautiful thing, but it also sometimes saddens me, because it is this light that we always have, that is supposed to be ours, where we can feel our life, we can feel our emotions, and we can feel connected to our place on earth and in the ecosystem. I think for a lot of animals, they see us, and they see us wandering, they see us kind of lost and a little bit homesick, and it is actually because we are leaving this part of aliveness in our body, but we need to feel safe to make this return to the heart. So it is this constant thing that's happening, and that's actually why I liked coming to your podcast, because you named your podcast, and I don't speak Italian, but I understood it had something to do with, and maybe you can tell me how you would translate it into English, but it is exactly the thing that I think my experiences with horses, and also the struggles that they face, they're always about this. How do I come home? How do I feel like I can find my place on earth? How I can live my life in harmony with who I am and in harmony with my environment. And something about the name of your podcast, it made me go like, oh, this is what for me it is about.
The whole idea was, in a way, to find harmony in our own chaos, or in the chaos that surrounds us. So it's exactly what you say. It's the search for a balance in this world that is filled with so many things, and it's very difficult sometimes to find your grounding center and your light, to keep that light alive and constant, as you said. So it's perfectly connected to what you said. Talking about your amazing work, how did you train to accompany both horses and humans? And maybe you can tell us a bit more about what you actually do.
You shared with me the experience you had in the herd, and it was actually an experience like this that made me start working with horses. I was struggling to find my place, and because I was also very sensitive, and I think a lot of very highly sensitive people, they experience this, that like they don't fit in, and they have to find ways to cope. And I think that the people who are less connected to this, they experience this as well. But for them, it is, maybe they don't know it, but it is the way they tune out in front of the TV, the cigarette, or the beer, or the jokes, or the working. And for me, I have this wildness inside, and also another part of me that always wanted to be the nice girl, be connected, find connection in the way that, and I know that also men experience this, but I see it a lot. I work a lot with women, and then we get raised in a certain way, so we start to please and be likable, but it was something that could not really exist without any tension. So there was tension inside me, anxiety. I was very familiar with darkness. I was very lucky to not be so afraid of it. So I was just committed to feeling all the things, but I really experienced a sense of maybe grief in a way, maybe tension, something stressed like this. And I started studying philosophy because I thought maybe I could find some answers.
Yes.
Answers in the books. Maybe someone can tell me
Yeah.
something, and then I can understand life, and I was actually obviously trying to find myself, but I didn't know that I was this was my journey. And then I went to Sweden to go on a workation and to work on the ranch, and we learned a lot about the horses, and they lived in freedom and horse behavior. And I was so passionate about this. I watched all the movies and all the courses that they had on. But they don't have the online courses yet. Natural horsemanship, or this way of looking at horses was not really available at the time. Perfect day for me, because finally I would be the one to do the guidance in the hike with the horses.
Wow.
So I would be the one who was riding in front, and I was feeling so good about everything. And I was explaining to the people who were visiting, I was explaining everything about the horses and how everything worked. They all got their horse. And I went to the horse that was supposed to come with me. And he looked at me as if I was danger, like a predator. He would not come close to me. He was reacting to me so very expressive. He was like running back. And obviously, I did not know what was happening at the time. But after trying a few times, I decided to walk back. I was a bit angry and frustrated because obviously I was ready to do the things where I would tell people about this. And then suddenly I got this mirroring back to me, like something's not right. So I went back, and then I really had a good mentor at the time. And she just asked me, like, were you honest with him? And I, as a Dutch person, maybe it's a big thing in our culture. You always have to be honest, even if it's uncomfortable. Yeah. So I was immediately triggered. I was like, yes, of course, I'm always honest. I'm like this open book. And this sentence of this open book, it really stuck inside my mind, because I know the moment I felt this, and I was really like almost shouting it to her, like, I'm an open book. And then she just left with all the people. They went on the hike and she left me behind. And she said to me, you go talk to him, tell him everything. And I was so pissed off, so frustrated. And I felt obviously also they left me behind. So it added another layer on this.
Of course.
I was ashamed, of course. And then I had to walk through a lot of fields to get to him. I was so angry. I was stamping my feet on the ground when I was walking. I was like, oh. And then it wore me out. My system started regulating, and I had never experienced something like this before. So I started like angry, like, how can he do this to me? When I in my mind, very honest with him, and I wanted only to do good things. And could he not see that I was this person who was always trying? And then suddenly the disappointment, it kind of came over me, and I felt something happening. And then from very deep down inside my body, I could feel this, almost like my heart was breaking. And it was this sadness. And when I tell you about it, I can still feel it, because it was so a hurt that I did not know I was carrying in any way or form. I felt the tears running over my face. That by the time I got to him, obviously, he was looking at me, and it was like a very loving way. It felt like somebody said, hey, it's very nice to finally see you. But it was such a profound meeting. He was so gentle, and then he walked with me all the way through the fields. And obviously I did not have to go anywhere because we just had this time and this space together. And this is really, it shaped everything I did afterwards. There was a moment I was in this moment with him, and I thought, he gets it. What I'm trying to find in the books, in the philosophy, they know everything about it. I started doing all these kinds of educations. In that time, it was very special to find a place where they thought about horse behavior. So I had to do something to get my insurance thing, and so I had to become like a sport horse instructor.
Mm-hmm.
And at the same time, I did this education program for 3 years to learn about behavior, trauma, and recovery, becoming a trainer. That was very interesting because I was with my feet in both worlds. I immediately, when I stopped my education at the university, I signed up to work at a riding school.
Mm-hmm.
So I was teaching at the riding school, and I was doing the sport horse instructor thing, while simultaneously learning everything that horses need, which is not this. I got to work with, there were, I think, hundreds. It was a really big stable, so there were hundreds of horses. And I also worked at a place where they were breeding sport horses at the time. So what was for me very special was that I was learning about behavior and problem solving and helping and understanding horses. There are no really good work rules in the horse world. So I was working way too many hours, I think maybe 50 or 60 hours a week. And every day I was only working with horses. Wow. All kinds of horses with all kinds of problems. And this is what made me very good at my job in the beginning. I think for a lot of people it's difficult to really not only understand it with your mind, but to work with enough horses. But these were the people I shared my life with.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, so then it went really fast. And,
your colleagues in a way.
My colleagues, but also my roommates, because I lived at the stable as well.
Wow.
Yeah, so I saw
so you really experienced the physicality of being with horses, which I think is amazing. All their energy, all their movements, everything. And I've seen a lot of your videos, beautiful videos where you hold horses. And how do you communicate with them?
I found out during my education programs that I did to become a horse trainer and behavioral specialist, that's what they call it. That was the first time I found out that not all people communicate directly with the animals. Mm-hmm. So it was mind-blowing to me. I had this beautiful teacher, and she did a lot of work intuitively. I was just thinking that we were all talking to the horses about everything and then finding out what was happening. And then it was the last months of our 4 or 3 years, 4-year program. And then they asked, who sometimes experiences emotion that does not belong to you? I was really shocked that I was the only one who raised my hand, because it was the first time in my life I understood that people who were working with horses around me, my fellow students and colleagues, that they were really learning about the horses from the books, because I thought we were just all chatting with them and feeling where they were hurt. And then, so it was such a important moment for me to understand that everybody is trying the best they can in their life, has their own way of experiencing the world. So for me, it has always come quite naturally, and I had to learn a lot about reading the energy and interpreting and different ways of communicating in my work, and really professionalize this. The good news is that everybody communicates with animals. Some don't really know it. We have a lot of animals surrounding us who are always trying to communicate with us. And even when I saw your cat walking by, sometimes you don't know it, but you just suddenly think, I think I should change the water. And they are actually talking to us. And then when you're relaxed, or you're like in the state where you drive in the car, you don't really, you just do the route you always do. You go into this theta state, and then suddenly the messages come through. And sometimes when it's really urgent, they come through more on a somatic way, where the nervous systems are talking with each other, and you just feel something's happening, I should do something. Yeah. But I think all people, they communicate with animals, but it's nice to learn how to do it more telepathically or more in a sensitive way. I think a lot of women, they, because we are wired to sense children. Yeah. So this is not something, no gender roles involved in my life, but just physically, women have a tendency to feel differently. Men, they experience this as well, but it is just a little bit different. When you feel a very strong sense of emotions of people and animals around you, it is like a blessing, but it also makes the work difficult. because
I agree.
with feeling, you really have to learn, what am I feeling that is my feeling? And how does the way I feel and my relationship with emotion and with myself influence the way I interpret the information that's coming to me? This is a process that can take few years to get used to all the things. And a lot of times people who are really sensitive, they grow up in a way where they develop their senses to sense things that are unsafe or stress so they can protect themselves. And this means that when you start working with animals, you don't know it, but you're just wired your own senses in a way to feel problems. So when you enter a room, you'll probably feel who's not doing well, where there is sadness, where there's unspoken tension, instead of also feeling all the bliss, all the love, all the things that are there as well. And imagine if you want to translate, so you have this animal with all the feelings and all the experiences in life, and you are just wired to feel problems, then obviously you will start reading a lot of problems when you are with animals, where they don't feel seen, where they are like the little child inside yourself that you lost touch with. And this is not something that's really beneficial to animals. So when people are very sensitive, they really have to learn how to develop their senses, understand the way they feel, and then they can start being more interested in how is this for you. And I see something happening when we're talking about it. So I imagine you resonate with some of this.
The thing that you said about, walking into a room and feeling everyone's pain, this is something that I mean, it's just who I am. I absorb a lot of that. And when I was with the horses, one thing that I noticed is that I could finally let go of this, that some of my pain or hurt was absorbed by them instead. And I thought that was just beautiful.
You know what I love most about what you just said? It started with, you said something like, this is just who I am. And then you find out it is actually not just who you are. Because when you're with horses, and that's something I love about being in herds. When you're with horses, the only thing that exists is the way you are and who you truly are. And then we have the things we learned and we think, and some we develop more. And this doesn't matter when you are in the presence of a horse, because they need to know when they see you, what kind of herd member are you? What are your qualities? What are the things you developed? How is this beneficial to all of us? So the things that you suck at, that you did not develop, obviously someone else will start doing it and maybe they will help you to develop it. But this is not important for who you are. So I love that you started with, yeah, this is just who I am, someone who feels the pain and the problems and the burden kind of way. And then you come to a place with horses and you suddenly feel there's more to me.
I should just move to a stable and live there with the horses.
Well, there is a way, and this is something that I love to teach people. There is a way that you can learn how to use this connection that you have with horses and their wisdom and their lessons to apply it in your daily life. Oh, that sounded a bit like a slogan. That was not meant like this at all. Like, apply it to your daily life. But it matters so much that the magic, the biggest part of the magic you feel is just you. So it's not the horses. And obviously they bring something special because, I had this friend and he said to me, why are people who live with horses so crazy? When you have the people who have a dog, they can talk about things that are different than dogs. And when people love horses, little girls or grown-ups, they think about is horses. There's this thing going on. So obviously there's something special with horses as well. Yeah. They are very spiritual beings. I think in a way they try to help us figure things out. They are really invested in helping other beings find their place. And that's something that we need because we are like exclamation points walking around like, oh. So I think there's something special about them as well. But most of the time, the cathartic experience that we have, like the one you experience, that is just you experiencing that there's a lot more of you. In Dutch, we have this saying, there's this song, and it is dit alles? Which means, is this everything there is? A lot of people have this feeling, is this all there is to life? And the answer is yes. No, the answer is no.
Yes,
this is it and there's more. Yes, this is it and there's more. So this is the thing, and there's more.
I wanted to ask you as a last question what we can learn from horses, but I guess you already answered it perfectly. So
I think there's one thing I would also like to say, like a maybe additional, or maybe because it seems like the theme of the talk that we're having is like how you find your way back home. And I think I have like inside yourself, and that a lot of people feel kind of homesick or lost and they need to cope. My work with horses, when it is about trauma and recovery, it is really so important in my life that I found out with horses that life happens. Really bad experiences can come into your life. You can have a lot of pain and suffering. Working with them, it really shows me that we all, like horses, have a very primal source of energy inside us, like a really ancient primal force that also allows us to free ourselves. I think this is something that I wanted to tell you. It's so badly, because it is such a hopeful message from nature and from the horses. And I see horses who have been abused, their bodies have been used, they have experienced horrible things. I am the one who is with them in these places where it's really dark and where they have almost like a split in their soul, where they don't want to live in their bodies anymore, where there's darkness and a lot of hurt. I get to physically assist them and be with them when they are coming back to life. And I get to witness this almost every week. I get to help horses, and I get to feel how it feels when their body is processing the old block and the old pain and the old hurt, and then the body comes to life again. And it's such a primal thing. And I hope that for someone who's listening, it is a hopeful message to know that we may feel like we're really broken, like something is really missing in our life. But horses remind me every time I work with them that there is also this very primal energy of our animalness that we decided to say goodbye to in society, that is really such a healing power. And I really want everyone to know this. That's why I'm always sharing the videos. I think people who don't even like horses, they see the video and suddenly something shifts because they feel, oh, maybe this is for me too. And I just want to say, I work with humans as well. This is really something that's available to everyone. And it is, in a way, finding your wilderness back, your primal source. And yeah, that's something that's really, really something I learned from that I wanted to share.
Thank you so much for adding this. And what you said is just beautiful. So it really moved me in a way. And I'm so grateful to have you in the family of the Disordinati. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much. I feel very welcome.